Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Tim and Johnny 5.
Thank you. Thank you so much. How you all doing?
How are you doing, Tim, today? You all right?
Yeah. I'm all right. Yeah.
You're good.
Yes.
Had a busy day?
Oh, but in a good way.
Yeah. Awesome. Brilliant. So let's go and look right back at the very start of your career. When did you first get into puppeteering and voice work? Was it a life choice, or was this something you just sort of discovered on your journeys?
The latter. I call myself an accidental puppeteer.
Yeah.
I mean, there was some intention in that I wanted an interesting summer job in my third year of college. And so there was a job posting for a puppet company. And there were two jobs posted. One was as a puppeteer in live shows, and the other was for set painting for the puppet shows. And I said, oh, I could do the set painting, because I'm a very shy person, so actually this is sort of frightening. And when I got down to apply for the job, it was this Tony Urbano shop, and he was a marionette master. And I said, okay, I'm here for the painting job. And I showed him my portfolio, and he says, oh, we're going to also try you on the puppet. I didn't audition, but he auditions everyone who comes through his studio, even if they're not applying to be a puppeteer, because it's one of these abilities that you might have.
Yeah,
and a lot of people don't think, I want to be a puppeteer when I grow up. There are those. Those are the like hardcore people who, when they're 5 years old, they see a puppet show and they're like, that's it. And then they start tearing apart their mother's dresses and making things, So I auditioned, and thank goodness he had a phone call. He showed me how to work this test marionette and left me in front of the mirror, and I was playing around, and he kind of saw me doing it. Oh, pretty good. I'll put him in the show. So he put me in the show, and it was horrifying because it's open-face marionette shows. It's not over a bridge where you're hidden. And so you had to also be like a stage performer.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes marionettes get tangled, and you don't panic. You're not supposed to panic because then the audience gets uncomfortable. You just kind of smile, and then you take the puppet upstage and you fix it, and you bring it back out. And it wasn't natural to me. So I had played with voices during my teenage years, and when I was, hope he's all right. Me and my friends discovered Monty Python, and I started imitating all the sketches and things, the voices, and found I could do a pretty good English accent. So that was something but I never thought to do anything with acting. I kind of was wanted to, but it was scary.
Yeah.
So after I did the summer of the marionette shows, he had a television commercial with Muppet-style puppets. And he was having with two Muppet-style puppets. They were Milo and Jasper. They were prospectors for a bank in Arizona. And he was looking for he was going to do Milo, and he was looking for Jasper. And he heard me doing voices backstage at the marionette show. He said, well, I'll audition you. And I found that you're doing Muppet-style TV puppets, you don't have to be on camera. It's the puppet that's on camera. And you look at a monitor, and like, there's the puppet. And you can move it around, and you can be performing but not being seen. It's like, I like that.
Wonderful, excellent.
So that kind of fit my personality. I could perform and do voices, and you get to throw it all into the puppet. And so it was a fit, and Tony recognized I had some ability and said, I need a guy like you. So he had work for all the way for the next 25 years, and this came along. He was interviewed by John Badham because their choices for bringing Johnny to life at that time were an actual animatronic figure on sets or stop motion, which they would not be on set. They'd have a stand-in thing that they would replace, and I think it was used that technique was used. That's what they had at the time. I think RoboCop used that
Yeah.
with the. So John Badham said, I don't want that. I want to have my actors, and this is a main character in the story. He's got to be there. So what kind of performers take inanimate objects and act and perform with them? Puppeteers. So he started looking for puppeteers. He interviewed Tony and said, no, this guy's the guy. And I was working for Tony, and initially Tony was supposed to do the voice on the set, and the plan was to replace it. But Tony said, I think it would be better if Tim does it. He's better vocally. That would allow me to sort of step back. And
Yeah,
Tony acted kind of as like the personal director of the robot. He came up with business and was the person that John consulted when figuring out what he was to do in the scene. And Tony manipulated the eyes and the eye flaps and anything on the head that was radio controlled. So he pitched me. He said, well, there's going to be a table read. I think Tim should do the table read. And I worked with Tony about which voice to use, and I had come up with the first voice. We call it the first voice because it's the one that worked. I did 2 or 3, and he said, no, the first one, and it was the input voice. And so we did the table read with Ali Sheedy and Steve Gutenberg and the cast. John Badham was there, and it went well. So they seemed to all kind of like the voice.
Yeah.
And that's sort of how it happened. The whole, it was freebie for them because they can always replace it. I ended up dubbing the voice in post anyway because this fella's noisy. He makes noise on set, and so even all the actors that did scenes with him had to dub in it in post.
So how did you obviously bring your voice vocally to make Johnny? Did you try loads of different things, or did you know straight away looking at him the kind of voice he would have?
I think the first one was just, what do you do to make a robot? You do a monotone voice, and you form the syllables around. No, I just did around it, and you sound more robotic. And then I needed to be able to emote, and so it started to get higher. And then when I pitched it higher, it sounded more natural as a, newly born in a sense. Input, and then just hanging on to the consonants, it sort of just gave a character to him. And it wasn't just, the robot voices. And it was, cute.
Yeah,
so
cool.
say. But, and as he got older, he spoke faster and wasn't less of that. But it was still in the same, but you know where it came from. It's basically my voice pitched up, and I just tried to make it sound like he was a robot, but he was alive.
That's what the script's about, so that's what I did.
So did you get to put a lot of spin and twist on the voice to give him his innocence to come across to the audience? Because he's quite innocent, sort of learning about the world.
Well, a lot of that was in the script, and I think that was another thing about the movie is the script. Everybody was very excited about it. It was pitched around and so it was just a cool story because it's, this, doesn't happen every day, and robot learning. And then, his design is, the eyes, that's the one great thing about the design is you got the eyes and the eye flaps, and you also have to give Tony props for working that part of it.
Yeah.
Because all I did was point the head in the right direction. And then all his eyes had to, move around, and the flaps would give him a lot of expressiveness. But it was in the script where he's learning, and then he gets older, and then also in the second movie, he's learning life lessons as well about being a not considered a full citizen or a full person, So, but he maintains, I think that is part of the script, is that he has an innocence and a purity that is maintained.
Yeah, cool.
He is always going to see the good in things, and I think I did glom onto that, and I'm sort of that way too. So and I think that comes through.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you can see it all the way through the film. So when you were on set, were you actually on set doing the voice behind the camera for the actors, or did you record your bits later on to make it obviously louder, or how did you get the recording process done?
Well, on set, I was mic'd, so they wanted to, you know, record it.
Yeah.
I think knowing that it was going to be dubbed and looped in post, but you need to have that performance on set. That was the whole point of having actual, you know, robot on set and performing. They just had me mic'd up, and they sometimes would. I think for the actors they used boom mics and things, but I had like a little headset mic.
Yeah. Cool.
And I was recorded on set. And then dubbing it in post is sometimes it's challenging because sometimes there's this magic stuff that happens on set because everybody's there and he's there, and you get a performance that you have to then replicate in a studio with just an engineer there and the director. And so I remember there was some of this stuff that was like, oh, it wasn't quite as good as on set, but
Yeah.
you know, you can't, you know, so you do your best.
Because moving a bit further forward, because you've done loads of voice work, another favourite of mine was Men in Black. So you got to play the pug dog. So talk about becoming a pug dog and finding the correct voice for him and the process of how they did it, because that was more CGI working,
Right.
not more so much puppet work.
Well, I haven't, yeah, it was kind of strange. I was again, Tony got the job, and he brought me in as a puppeteer. And on the very first day of shooting, he put me again in a position of doing a voice on the set. And the very first thing that they shot was on the desert where they stopped the van full of illegal aliens, and Mikey is the character that comes out of one of the aliens. And there were, you know, an actual animatronic guy in a suit on stilts, and his head was animatronically controlled. And they put me on the mouth, and I provided a voice on the set, which was kind of like, you know, something alien-esque, which they didn't use. But doing that, they said, well, Rick Baker suggested me for Frank the Pug, and said, what we'd like to do is get an actor in makeup, in pug makeup, and what we'll do is film that and then map that onto the pug dog, filming the pug dog. So they did that. They made a pug makeup. They cast my face and made pug makeup, and then they sent me up to ILM and applied it, and I had pug teeth, and they filmed me doing all the lines. I didn't get a picture. I don't know what was going on, but they didn't use that particularly, but they used that as a reference to CG, the make it out of CG.
Yeah.
So, and then the direction was he'll be English accent or New York accent, and I tried both, and I don't know, for some reason this didn't work as well as in New York, you know, and he's in New York, so we went with the New York.
Yeah.
And this was a voice that I kind of had already done for some other commercials and things like that. So it just fit.
Yeah, because I mean, yesterday when you were here, you showed us with puppeteering work how you motion your hand with the syllables and the words in your mouth, and it was so fascinating to watch because you did like 2 different speeds. And the first one it's just quick, but then
well, like if you're doing supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, try and do every syllable. It's supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. And it's kind of jarring, especially if you have a puppet on it. It's like, so you try and abbreviate, like, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. And if you follow the kind of rhythm of words, it works out better. The other thing I didn't mention was, a basic mistake that a lot of puppeteers start with, is when you open the mouth wide, like you think, oh, you just do that. Well, the top of the mouth, it should stay level, because if you also don't see people talking like, yeah. So you drop the thumb, the upper palate can stay relatively steady, and that helps. And practice does help. I'm curling my hands because that's actually one of the positions in a good puppet. You have it like that. It's easier than that.
Awesome. So, can we ask you some questions like yesterday as Johnny Five? Because that was awesome.
Sure.
So,
Have at it.
my first question to Johnny Five is, have you seen Benjamin lately, and what's he up to, and is he okay?
I worry about Benjamin. I've been texting him, and he doesn't reply. I think I'm going to go visit, check up on him. But he's such a good soul, though. Such a good soul.
And you were created by the military to destroy all humans and tanks and stuff, but now you're obviously changed. So, what's it like looking back at how you were meant to be?
It's really hard to look back at that because it's wrong. It's wrong to kill, die, boom. Ooh, just makes shivers go down my metallic spine. So I think it also shows that we can all change for the better. You don't have to be what you were meant to be, but you can be what you were meant to be for yourself. And just be a good robot.
Be a good robot.
Don't be a bad robot.
And you've been around humans so much now. Is there something you find really funny about humans?
Toes. I think toes are hilarious. They're weird. I mean, treads are very, very practical.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know how you get those things in your shoes.
And you've been alive now for so long, and you've learnt so much about the human race. So, what's the most beautiful thing you've learnt about humans?
The most beautiful what?
The most beautiful thing you've learnt about humans
Is that everyone's basically good inside. I think every adult walking around is really a child inside. Just be that child. See the world through child's eyes.
Awesome. Brilliant. So, looking back at your career, is there any puppets or voice that you've done that really sort of connects with you on a personal level that always sticks out to you?
Tim, you want to take this?
Okay.
Well, this guy, because he's, that message is very, very strong, and it kind of sort of changed my life in a sense because it was a big deal. Other characters. I'm blanking. So I know I can't. Probably this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. So.
Thanks, pal. No problemo. Now the other thing, finally, we get to improvise and how we threw out, and we had all the puppeteers the night before. I'd go through the script, and if there was something, we got addicted to changing lines and throwing in everything but the kitchen sink. And then in the morning when we come to set, we kind of huddle and say which ones we wanted to try.
Yeah.
And we'd throw them out, and sometimes they'd use them, sometimes they'd not. Also, in post, when we had to redub the whole voice, that was another opportunity. And I think we threw in a lot, and then during test screenings, they said, it's too much, we'll dial it back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think the, hey, laser lips, your mama was a snowblower, that line we think was something we came up with. One of the other puppeteers, Rico Topazio, was one of the guys that was doing the arms mostly, but he's a really funny guy from the East Coast, and he sounds like something he would have come up with.
Awesome.
And I asked him, and he couldn't remember, but I think I have a script in a box in storage somewhere, and I kind of want to I want to see if we did that, because that's a great line.
It's an awesome line.
So I don't want to take credit if the screenwriters had come up with it, So, yeah.
Wonderful. So, shall we open up the floor to the people, let them ask some questions?
Sure.
Anyone got any questions? Any questions?
No, I had no inkling. This is. I had heard. I think San Diego Comic Con, I think, was one of the very first comic things, and when making it, absolutely not, because nothing like that. And I was very, very busy. I'm not as busy now. Um, and the convention thing has just exploded. You know, they're everywhere. So friends of mine had done these and said, "Oh, you should do those." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know how. How do you do that?" And it just sort of again fell in my lap. We worked on Flight of the Navigator, and there was a documentary made by Lisa Downs, and she's here about called Life After the Navigator about Joey, and sort of a behind the scenes of that film. And we were interviewed for that, and one of the people associated with that said, "Oh, you should do conventions. I know a guy who does conventions," and he hooked us up, and I did my first in February here in London. So it's cool, cool, way cool. And look, Ryan and Stacy put together this amazing facsimile. No, I'm real. I'm the Johnny Five. And you didn't like move. I need help to do that. So. Okay. You don't like it, you can kiss my furry little butt. And I think that reading was the thing that got me the part. I felt great. It was, you know, I was 25 and this accidental job, you know, being a puppeteer came along, and I'm on a movie set. John Badham was a, you know, huge director at the time, and Ali Sheedy and Steve Guttenberg, and it was thrilling, you know. So, you know, come on. Yeah, in a way, because but in any other puppeteer, I did puppeteer on the second. They shot it in Canada and used Henson puppeteers because they had shot a lot of Henson people had shot a lot of things up in Toronto, and they're excellent puppeteers up there. But I didn't puppeteer, and I noticed when I went, they did call me to do the voice again. I noticed that it was a completely different pace and style of performance, and the director was there directing me in post, and it was very similar. I felt like sometimes I was just duplicating their lines, but I felt I had to try and, you know, get Johnny's voice in there. And it was much faster. The pace was just like, "Hi, I'm Johnny Five. Let's go do something right now." Whee! You know, I would have gone like, "Hey, it's Johnny Five. Let's do something." Whee! You know, just it was a different pacing. And so I tried to kind of get as much Johnny back into him from the first movie as I could. But in a way, it was also better because he's grown up, he's older, he's not baby talk anymore. But if I speak too fast, I feel like I lose Johnny, you know, a little bit. So, eh. I have my death scene and scene. Brutal, brutal.
Cool. Any more questions from anyone?
My favorite thing about doing conventions? The people. It's the people. It's the people, stupid. Just to see people light up when they see him, or if I, you know, do any of the voices. It's that's what it's supposed to be. Is sort of the magic of movies, and you get to be present with it and see the light in people's eyes. That's the best part. What are you saying about me? You saying that me and Tim are exactly the same? Is that what you're saying? I don't know. It was a lot more because they liked the character, so they used him a lot, and there were alternate lines, and I think any actor is going to bring themselves through it. So this is my chance to be a New York guy. I was born and raised in California, for goodness sakes. Now, how does that happen? So I must have been a New York person in a previous life. That's all I can say. They went, they said, oh, Frank's hilarious. Let's use him a lot. So that was great to use him a lot. And I don't recall, since everything with Frank was done, ironically, they didn't have me on the set when they were shooting Frank's scenes, because that is something that they could have done instead of having the script supervisor provide the lines to Will Smith, if he's having a scene with Will. They could have had me sitting there in a chair throwing lines when Frank was supposed to talk, but they didn't do that. I don't know why. Maybe I was working on the movie. Maybe I don't know. But that's something I would have thought they would have done, but we did everything in post. And there didn't seem to be any problems with like the way that the script supervisor did the line. There was enough space in there for me to do it the way Frank would do it, because the script supervisor is Barry's. Script supervisors and directors are like married couples. They do all their stuff. They find, and so this lady was Barry's, and she's very quiet, and she would fill the line, but it's like, no character. Anyway. Yeah, the very first things out of my mouth are the iconic lines. You don't like it, you can kiss my furry little butt. Oh, got a plosive there. You're very welcome.
Ooh, any more questions?
Hi. Well, I know that they were talking about doing a remake, but not a sequel. There have been a couple of times that they've had scripts written, but I mean, I always think it's instead of I think for some reason they want to do a reboot and kind of like recast, make it. I think I've heard of it like that instead of Stephanie, it would be a young boy, and things like that. And, I don't know. It's always a little challenging to remake something that's kind of a classic in its own idiom. And they talked about that with Flight of the Navigator and things like that. I'd be interested to see what they do. But I think as a character, it would be, again, that's the challenge. If you want to redo it, you kind of have to do something different, but something similar. So that's how do you do something different that's the same, but has the same, it's hard to do that, How much do you change? How much do you, and I think that's, why it's probably been something that hasn't happened, because it's hard to figure that out. And someone's got to commit money to do it, But apparently Bryce Dallas Howard is connected to some reboot of Flight of the Navigator. And I think it's one of those things that you would have to do something different enough, but sort of to capture the same spirit. So the details shouldn't be the same, but it should have similar spirit. Yeah, and there's a sequel right there, and have a gold-plated Johnny through the whole next movie. And gold is easy to maintain, isn't it? It doesn't tarnish or anything like that. Yeah. Does it conduct electricity? Gold? Yeah. Oh yeah. So maybe that's a plot point. I heard about that. Oh, I think that was that after the second? I don't know.
Yeah.
That was after the second. They didn't call me. I don't know. I didn't see it. I heard about it.
I've only seen it in a very low-res YouTube thing.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm a little confused as to, who owns the rights to Johnny Five. And Sony must have approved that because I don't think they could have just gone out and have done it without getting permission. So it is a little odd. Yeah, why do that and not do a movie? Come on.
Cool. Any more questions from anyone? Oh, I think.
My favorite ice cream flavor? Oh, let's see. Well, I think that it's something that's we should all carry along with us is more input. More input. It's always good to get more information.
Awesome, wonderful. Is there any more questions before we finish? I think that is it then. Tim,
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming up again, and thank you for bringing Johnny with you and the control as well.
Thank Ryan
They brought Johnny up.
and Stacy.
Cool. Awesome, thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant, thank you.
Pleasure.